My nephew refused to go near my new girlfriend. When I asked why, he said, "She smells like the girl who made mommy cry." My nephew Charlie is 6 years old and has never in his life been shy about anything. The kid will walk up to a complete stranger at a grocery store and tell them their cart smells funny. He has zero filter and zero fear. So when I brought my new girlfriend, Paige, over to my sister Chloe's house for the first time, and Charlie planted himself in the corner of the living room and refused to come out, I noticed. "Charlie, buddy, come say hi." He shook his head, just once. Firm. She brought cookies. Nothing. He crossed his arms and stared at Paige like she had personally wronged him. Chloe laughed it off and said he was just being weird, which he sometimes was. I figured he'd warm up. We had dinner. Paige was wonderful, and Charlie stayed glued to the far end of every room for the entire night. When I was putting him to bed, I asked him straight up, "Why wouldn't you come say hi to Paige?" He thought about it for a second. Very serious. "She smells like the girl who made mommy cry." I kept my face still. "What girl, buddy?" "The one who came to the door. Mommy didn't know I was on the stairs." He pulled his blanket up. "Mommy cried for a long time after." I kissed his forehead, told him to sleep, and walked out into the hallway where I stood for about 30 seconds feeling like the floor had moved. Chloe's marriage ended 8 months ago. Her ex-husband, Dom, told her he'd been unhappy for years and wanted out. No warning, no counseling, just gone. She cried for weeks. I had driven to her house at midnight more than once just to sit with her on the couch. I hated Dom for what he did to her. But Charlie was describing a woman who came to the door, not Dom. I called Chloe that night after I got home. I told her what Charlie said exactly. Silence. "Chloe, he was on the stairs," she said quietly. "I didn't know. What happened? Who came to the door?" She took a long breath. "About 3 weeks before Dom left, a woman showed up at the house while he was at work. She said she was a friend of his, and she'd left something in his car. I went and got it from the back seat. It was a jacket, a woman's jacket. I handed it to her and she said thank you and left. Did you ask Dom about it?" "He said it was a coworker. She'd been in his car when a group of them went to lunch." She paused. I believed him. I didn't even think twice. I asked her to describe the woman. She did. I sat with that for a moment. Then I asked the question I didn't want to ask. "Chloe, what perfume does Paige wear?" Another long silence. Then, "Where did you meet her?" "I met Paige 4 months ago, at a work event. She was warm and funny, and said she'd just gotten out of a long, complicated situation and was ready for something real. I didn't ask for details because I didn't think I needed them." "Where did you meet her?" Chloe asked again. "A conference. She works in corporate logistics. Dom works in corporate logistics." I didn't sleep that night. I lay in my bed and thought about every conversation I'd had with Paige, looking for something I'd missed. She'd never mentioned a Dom. She'd never mentioned anyone by name, just the long, complicated situation she was putting behind her. In the morning, I asked her to coffee. Casual. I told her I'd been thinking about things and wanted to know more about her past. She smiled and said she appreciated that. She told me she'd been seeing someone for almost 2 years, that it had been intense and all-consuming, and she thought he was going to leave his wife for her. He kept promising. He kept not doing it. "Did he ever leave?" I asked. "Eventually," she said, "but not for me." She said it without flinching, like she'd made peace with it. I asked his name. She told me. I drove to Chloe's house and sat across from her at the kitchen table and told her everything. She didn't cry. She just nodded slowly, like some part of her had already guessed and spent the last few months trying not to know it. "What are you going to do?" she asked. "I ended it this morning," I said. She looked at me. "You didn't have to do that for me." "I know." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Charlie wandered in from the backyard with a stick he'd found and started telling us very seriously that it was a wizard staff. Chloe let him put it in the umbrella stand by the door. I don't know how a 6-year-old held onto that memory for 8 months. I don't know what made him recognize a scent he'd encountered once, briefly, at the front door while he was sitting on the stairs in the dark, but he did. Kids pay attention to everything, especially when the adults in the room think they're not watching.